Now, I have a secret about working with Brian Wilson of the Beach Boys. It was 14 years ago, so I think it's time to share it. My shoot with Brian Wilson was strange and memorable. Not memorable because of who he was, but kind of memorable because of who he wasn't. It was 2011, and I was commissioned to photograph him at a 5-star hotel, the Mayfair near Piccadilly in London. I remember thanking the picture editor of the Guardian Weekend, Kate, profusely for the opportunity to photograph a bona fide genius. In the days leading up to the commission, I had God Only Knows on constant loop in the jukebox of my mind. When we finally met, I didn't know exactly what I was expecting. Charisma, maybe something mythic. It's always strange to meet a proper cultural icon, somebody who's loomed so large and made you who you are as a person. David Gilmour, Sir Paul McCartney, even Baroness Thatcher. Anyway, the room they gave me was this weird, windowless conference box, beige walls, no air, smelling of print toner and coffee, not promising. He arrived with minimal fanfare. He was a big man, a neat quiff of thick grey hair. He shook my hand and listened attentively as I explained the way I like to work. There was no ego. He was wearing a check shirt, so I gambled and asked him to go and change. It's always best to keep things simple, and when he returned, the alternative was a perfect match for his sad blue eyes. From then on, he was a malleable object. He was compliant and responded obediently to my directions. I was kind of getting what I wanted, but it almost felt like I was cheating. Like he wasn't really there, dislocated. His eyes weren't weepy or melodramatic, just profoundly distant. He didn't so much look at you as look through you, like he was checking if you were real. Conversationally, he was monosyllabic. He acknowledged my questions, my attempts at connecting with a simple yes or no. It felt like his body had turned up for the shoot, but the rest of him, the part that made all that astonishing music, was somewhere else entirely. It's like he was a ghost. He seemed to wear the suffering that he'd experienced in his body language. It weighed heavy, like armour. When you meet someone like that, someone whose work has literally shaped a genre, you want that sparkle of genius, that moment of connection. You want to be able to tell people about what it was like. But that Brian simply wasn't there. He just sat, bolt upright, arms stiffly by his side, like a waxwork of himself. So I took what I could. I moved quickly, worked with the stillness, tried to capture what was there instead of chasing what wasn't there. I used available light with a Canon 5D or 1DS Mark II, first with the oatmeal walls and then with a grey backdrop. According to the metadata, I got 16 minutes. And then the PR took him away. And here's the part I was asked to keep secret. About 10 minutes later, the writer who made the request that I keep it secret, and I won't name, returned. He was white as a sheet. His recorder had failed, and he had lost the whole interview. My heart went out to him. Now, usually that's that. Celebrities of the ilk of Brian Wilson do not do second takes. But the PR very calmly just said, let's go back in. And so he was reintroduced to Brian like they'd never met. And Brian, without blinking, said, hello, and gave exactly the same answers as before. Same voice, same rhythm, like someone had hit rewind on the tape and then pressed play again. Brian Wilson wasn't just a rock star. He was a man who lived in a constant battle with his own mind. Schizoaffective disorder, voices in his head, long periods of deep clinical depression. At one point, he spent years not getting out of bed. And yet somehow, out of that mind came Pet Sounds, Surf's Up, Smile. A profound contribution to the vocabulary of popular music that changed the Beatles' entire direction. That kind of creativity doesn't come from a balanced place. It comes from the edges. When I photographed him, he was kind, quiet, cooperative. But you could feel the cost of everything he'd been through in the way he held himself. It was like he'd given the world all the colour he had, and now he was just trying to stay in the room. When I heard of his death, I was suddenly back in that slightly claustrophobic basement. Some shoots you do not forget. I didn't connect. We didn't connect at all, but I did see him. And when you see someone who's been that brilliant, you don't forget it. Looking at the shoot now, I don't see a rock legend. I see a man who gave everything he had to music and lost parts of himself along the way.